Katie, I want to just start with the stakes because it's really easy to get sucked into talking about the politics of this thing, which, of course, are tied to the stakes. What is on the line for American people, for government workers, if the government shuts down come October?
Right. Alicia, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I think in all of the coverage we've seen and what we've been talking about, because it's important to talk about, is pointing out the political repercussions that McCarthy will face. But really what we have to be talking about is what the American people will face, because there is no undermining that. There is no saying that, sure, a government shutdown can happen. The American people will never notice. That's not true. So many things will come to a halt. So many things won't get done. There will be people who work for our government who will not get paid. Of course, there are important parts of our government that will survive or try to survive this. But depending on the length of this shutdown, depending on the scope of it, there are so many people that will have their lives impacted, not just from just getting paid, but certain services that they rely on, certain contracts that companies and even parts of the government and other parts of the country depend on. There are so many repercussions beyond just what we've been talking about, which is just the political repercussions that McCarthy is facing.
Yeah, I'm so struck by the fact that, there's a group that's focused on deep spending cuts, despite the fact they're very happy to run up the deficit when they were operating under then President Trump. The fact, though, that aid to Ukraine is one of the sticking points for them, or at least one of the things that they think they're going to score some points on, says so much about the state of this Republican Party that is the thing that they are willing to shut the government down over.
100%. I think. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it speaks to what the expectation of the American attention is right now, that there isn't any care as to what's going on over there. And this has been a story that's been told quite too long for the past over 2 years or so. But right now, what we're looking at is the fact that when it comes to Ukraine, there are so many Americans seeing it the other way than the Republican Party is seeing it. They're seeing it as a way that we should be supporting it, that this is a fight for democracy. And if the Republican Party is saying that this is a fight that we are not supposed to be taking part of, that the American people aren't paying attention to, then it says a lot about what the Republican Party is paying attention to when it comes to Americans.
Right. I mean, Matt Dowd, America first to the point of America only.
Well, yeah, and I actually think they are being very reflective, again, going to the previous conversation, very reflective of their base. I mean, if you look at the polls, the base of the Republican Party now sides with Putin in most cases, in all of the things when you ask the questions. They want Ukraine funding cut, the base of the party, not the majority of the people, but the base of the Republican Party in this. And it's really a party that has completely lost any roots in what it used to be. I mean, this is the party that was the tear down that wall party. And now it's not only build a wall in Mexico, it's keep up any walls you want in any other part of the world if it helps Russia in the midst of this. And so I think it's less reflective, though I completely agree, it's of the leaders, the Republican leaders who have no integrity and no actually interest in what's in the national interest of the country or in the interest of international relations in the world. It is a party that has been completely unhinged from the norms that have operated in our country, and that then reflects the leaders we get. The reason why we have certain leaders like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other ones is because they reflect the base of the Republican Party.
Well, speaking of some of those other ones, you got McCarthy, Katie, navigating this fight, trying, of course, to hold on to his job. You got Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, others saying they will force a vote to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker if he doesn't cave to their demands. Again, this is a movie that it feels as though we have seen before. But these threats in this battle, how are they different than in other spending fights?
I think they are coming from all sides at this point for McCarthy, and I think that's what's going to be a little tougher this time. I think McCarthy has been saying and has been putting on this reputation that he is up for a fight, but this is quite a fight that we've never seen before or haven't seen quite before as much as we see right now. We have hardline Republicans, far-right Republicans saying that they're giving no leeway at all for McCarthy. Either he gives into what they want, which is deeper spending cuts, which speak to a lot of the policies that will upend a lot of what Americans want. And then at the same time, you're hearing from other parts of the party saying, well, we don't want that, but we want this from you. And you agreed to this deal earlier this year, but we don't want that either. So right now what we're seeing is they're coming from so many different places. And of course, like we said, we've seen this before, and we could think back to so many instances of not so many instances, but when this happens, when there's going to be a vote to move.
Kevin McCarthy's speakership has been challenged since the day he took that gavel. I mean, it sort of has not been a question of if, but if when they were going to make this move.